Hello, hello, and welcome to our webinar today on building resilience, ISO 22301 business continuity. We're joined here with Yvonne Sears with Elevate Resilience, who will be leading this webinar. But first, let's just quickly talk about Vital Learning Edge. We are a certification training company specializing in cybersecurity and IT governance, where our mission is to deliver top-tier training solutions that help individuals and organizations stay ahead in the competitive landscape. Our parent company is Vital Advisory, and part of that means that we're able to draw deep on our industry expertise to provide unparalleled value to our learners. So why choose Vital Learning Edge? Well, we only work with people with training experience as well as trainers with real world experience. So all of our trainers not only are certified themselves, but they actually actively work in field. That's a big key differentiator, which allows us to provide top quality training at the best value. Second to that, we also provide excellent customer service and satisfaction, if I don't say so myself. So you can read a little bit more about us on our website, vitallearningedge.com. You'll also find a bit of a portfolio at a glance. We offer all the leading ISACA and ISC2 training portfolio, as well as a few more there on the screen you can see. But again, check out our website if you want to see our full portfolio. We basically have you covered from foundation to advanced levels. But for now, I want to hand over to Yvonne, who will be leading this session today. She is one of our trainers, again, with 25 plus years of experience working within the ISO space. She is the author of the recently published Resilience by Design book, as well as our latest course, which we will talk a little bit on today at the end of the session on ISO 22301 business continuity. So, Yvonne, welcome to the webinar. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be involved in writing the course for you and your cohorts.
Yeah.
And I think it will become evident this is a bit of a passion piece for me. So I'm very excited to sort of share my experience, what I've learned over the last 25 plus years in terms of operational risk, of course, operational risk, business continuity management, and cybersecurity. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, let's move on from
Lovely.
there.
Let's
Okay,
get into
so
it.
yeah, let's get into it. So I think it's important to acknowledge, especially now, that the old adage, it's not a question of if something's going to happen, but when, especially what we've experienced over the last 5 to 10 years. There's been a lot of change from environmental factors as well as now sort of global events that are impacting supply chains and things like that. So I think it's really essential for any size organization really to understand where they fit in that supply chain, how they can prevent loss or downtime to their clients, and really understand, the realities of disruption, what it means for them, what the impacts, but more importantly, what strategies can they put in place to prevent it and actually build their resilience to these global changes that are going on.
Hmm.
So, what is business continuity? It's business continuity is really part of an overall framework for business resilience. So, continuity is ensurance the continued service and operation of a business, and that looks different for any organization. So, it's really a set of predefined and agreed strategies for how that's then going to be managed. And, we can apply ourselves to different plans and functions to actually support that. So it's not just a case of doing a BIA and writing a plan that no one reads, sits on the shelf and gathers dust. It's a case of, okay, well, how can we enhance our ability to anticipate something that could impact us as a business? How we can prevent that from happening. But I guess more importantly, from this perspective, is how we then respond and recover from that. So there's various strategies that we go through within the course and what that might look like in terms of redundancy systems or spares and that sort of thing, just to support that
Mm.
ongoing process, essentially. So the business continuity program is also beyond the standard disaster recovery mode. So long ago in the Stone Age, where we had like the old mainframe systems and everything like that, business continuity was very much stuck and focused around disaster recovery, in the term that it's all around recovery of IT systems, because that was all becoming an issue that needed to be addressed at that time. However, it's now transitioned from being stuck within IT to actually understanding how the business operates and how the organization can sort of build resiliency overall to prevent loss.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's essential. It's a really good tool to ensure that we understand the full operations of the organization. So, we need to be understand how the organization operates to understand what needs to be protected. We need to understand our stakeholder needs and expectations so we can make trust and provide transparency in what that looks like and what the potential scenarios could be. But it's really important to understand that actually we can't stop everything. So can we, plan for the worst, essentially? So it's a really good program, done well. You can understand the full rhythm of your organization, understand your risk profile, and then understand your stakeholder needs and expectations.
I think that's really important as well. Maybe, I don't know if it makes sense in this context, but if there is a disaster and something does go wrong, the way that you go about fixing it sometimes helps to maintain trust with your customers if you do that right as well. Is that part of this sort of process, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not saying that something won't happen or what have you, and it's a case of having a strategy that embeds communication. So part of the course we go through creating a communication strategy. So again, sort of leaning into who the stakeholders are, what their needs and expectations are, depending on where you sit in the supply chain. You need to have that open communication. So if something happened, you need to let them know as soon as possible, because it may, trigger their business continuity plan. So the sooner that they're, informed of something that has or may happen, they can be better prepared and, have confidence in what you're saying, and support them as much as possible. So yeah, it's very much around, although we can't prevent everything, it's having a plan to be able to react quickly. So when we sort of build scenarios and plans and strategies, it's a case of we don't write for every possible scenario. It's a case of, okay, well, these are our most important assets. These are our most important business processes. If we can't do it, then what?
Yeah.
So it's very much at that. So it doesn't matter what has actually happened. It's a case of, okay, we don't have that anymore. Now what?
Okay. Beautiful.
Sure. So the 22301 standard itself is atypical ISO standard. So it follows the Plan, Do, Check, Act processes. In top management engagement is very important at the top end as well, as in any other standards. But this one is significant because you're going to be engaging everyone across the business. So it's not department specific, like quality management or cybersecurity, for example. This is about the business. So it's essential to get that buy-in from the top to go, okay, well, we actually need to go and talk to these different stakeholders to be able to do that and prioritize their time. We need your stamp of approval, essentially, to do that, because it is quite a time extensive sort of program if you're standing it up for the first time.
Yeah.
So the 22301 has actually been around for quite a while. I worked with it when it first came out as British Standard 25999 back in 2006.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's when I did my lead implementer course on that old standard. Yeah, it's crazy to think that was some 20 years ago.
Businesses still need to continue though, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's evolved from, like I say, generally sort of limited focus and focus on IT is now taken on that resiliency perspective, whole organization, benefits of involving other departments within the process as well. So we have different stakeholders that actually should play a role in developing this strategy, really. So yeah. The most important thing actually for this, where it differs from other standards, is that although we have the plan, do, check, act process, covering that, I guess, as the outer shell, is ensuring that business continuity becomes embedded within the organization. And that's a clever nuance, I think, in terms of, getting that continual management improvement process going. But if any change to the organization, in terms of the products and services that are delivered, that those decision points actually consider business continuity at the very early stages. So it's, it embeds or emphasizes the need to embed business continuity throughout the organization.
Yeah, that makes sense. Key break,
Really important.
Yeah. Well, I want to point out, quick break. I want to point out that there's currently no course on 22301 other than ours. Is that right?
No.
No publicly offered course on the ISO 22301 currently available anywhere outside of this one that we're launching. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Yay, no best.
So for those that are interested in learning more, obviously we'll talk about it a bit more later, but there's something out there if you want to implement effectively.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I say, in developing the course, putting that course together, I've sort of brought in my own experiences and knowledge and cheat sheets, I guess you could call it, along the way. So it's not just a stock standard, here's the standard, I'm reading through the standard. It's okay, well, this is how we can apply ourselves. This is what they're asking for. And we can really explore that through, general discussions as a group within the training, but also some of the activities that we put together as well. So it's going to be fun. So more around the key components of the standard itself. So context is very important, like any standard, but the context for business continuity is really about what the business is, how you operate. So what's your risk profile? Where do you sit in the supply chain? Are you critical infrastructure, for example? What are your obligations when it comes to business resilience, service continuity, and things like that? So it's defining, okay, well, what context do we want to apply ourselves to when we're talking about business continuity? Are we focusing on a particular product or service that's unique to you, or are we looking at the whole organization? Is it location based, for example? You may have a higher risk location as opposed to another. It's really sort of defining, okay, what's the context of business continuity for us, and where should we focus our efforts and resources to get that underway? Another key component is around leadership. So like I said before, having that top management engagement early on is really, really important. And within the course, we establish, okay, at what stage do we need support? So maybe that, through the project management element of actually getting us from where we are now to certification, we need project manager. We need to engage with the certification bodies and things like that. What does that look like as opposed to operations? How are we going to distribute the roles and responsibilities throughout the organization to ensure that, it's maintained over time and embedded within the organization? We need to have a sponsor as well. And I think it's essential. When you're doing a project that sort of sits across the whole organization, you need that stamp of approval from senior authorities to go, yes, we're doing this, it's important, and you need to dedicate time and resources from your department to implement this program. And part of the planning phase as well is looking at, what actually matters to the organization, what are they concerned about? And then, okay, well, what are the business continuity objectives? And then that really helps us define not just the scope, but the strategies and solutions that you can then put in place to make that happen. So it's really important to move this from a set of documents that sit on a shelf that no one ever reads to actually operational tool that actually supports the business operations, done really, really well. You can make process improvements, understand your operational risks, and define some strategies that actually going to prevent events from happening in the first place, which is always the best solution.
Yeah.
A very core component of the standard is around risk and business impact analysis. So, like I said before, done really well, you can have a really good understanding about what makes your organization tick, where the potential vulnerability points are along that. So in the course, we explore the value chain across the organization. So there are various touch points across the different departments that go, okay, well, if, for example, the call center goes down, what's the ongoing impact across the organization, as well as the overall impact of loss of the call center, for example. So, we're helping to build out more intelligence around operational risk, as well as clearly defining business impact in terms of impact to a product or service, but also internal impact. So increased workload or backlogs with staff and things like that, and coming up with strategies that will assist that to ensure that we meet our service level agreements overall. And all of this together helps us to prioritize what comes first. So if something happens, where do we allocate our resources to bring the most important and I guess the value chain activities to the front and get them up and standing first. So it's an essential piece of the program.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, obviously, if I'm thinking about business continuity, I just go back to 2020 COVID, right? That rocked every industry. You can't say it didn't. There was so much change in a short period of time that we all had to say, okay, if we want to continue business, we all either have to work from home or change from going to a restaurant and serving people to changing to takeaway. And I'm wondering how many people actually contemplated that as part of their, disaster planning and business continuity. And now, even years later, we're still not back to what things were like back then. And it won't go back there, It's so different now still.
Yeah.
Training industry, we went from face-to-face courses next week to everyone is out of the office, the courses are cancelled. What do we do? Oh, well, maybe we try, online training, it was huge. It was huge. And I mean, I know we had no plan, not Vital Learning Edge, didn't exist then, but previous workplaces, there was no plan and it would have been a lot less stressful if there was.
Exactly. I think everyone kind of muddled their way through, but I think it also showed some of the opportunity risks that actually came with it as well. So although there was disruption from a negative standpoint, there was opportunities to now offer services in a different way. It may have been that, you know, it was on the plan at some point in the future and it just hadn't been a priority for organizations, and then all of a sudden they had no choice, and so it brought forward the sort of change program to make that happen. So it was very interesting. It was both a positive and very stressful time for everyone.
Yep.
But you know, sometimes you have to be forced into, you know, thinking about things in a different way. But you know, to reduce the stress, it's good to think of these things before something happens, and go,
100%.
okay, well, what opportunities do we have if we, you know, have this business process as part of our critical value chain? If something happens to that, or actually understanding, you know, how does it operate? What do they depend upon? And if they lose a key asset, is going to have a huge knock-on effect. So how can we prevent that? So it's looking at, okay, well, what are the options available to us, you know, that can actually save us money in the long term? So so just puts a different light on how you're thinking about business operations, which is another reason why I'm very passionate about this topic, because you can learn an awful lot about your organization just through going through the process. So yeah, highly recommended.
Nice.
All right, so building resilience. So I mentioned before about some key strategies, but the whole point of resilience is being able to anticipate, prevent, respond, and recover. So it's looking at your abilities really to do that. So you know, we going through the risk assessment, understanding where your vulnerabilities lie, we can then determine, okay, well, what strategies do we need to consider? So, you know, not everything is going to need a business continuity plan, because not everything has a workaround solution. It's either they have their assets there or they don't. So that's what we go through in the course, as well as just determining, okay, well, where does it make sense to have a business continuity plan? And then strategize around, okay, what activities can we just put on hold until everything's back up and running again? And which have absolutely no tolerance for downtime or loss. And then how do we manage that? So how do we then build in the ability to prevent downtime? So that's where the high availability systems come in place. You got the automatic failovers and things like that. And that's really sort of helping to focus on where the business spends money in terms of recovery, backups, and that sort of thing. So it's all embedded in terms of response and recovery planning. And then obviously we need to test our assumptions. So we go through testing and exercising. And it's very important in terms of language to say, okay, well, we're testing our assumptions and we're testing the plans, not people. So because we want everyone engaged with that. We don't want you know, everyone that's involved in the exercise actually thinking that they are being tested themselves. And we're exercising our knowledge, and, you know, increasing our capabilities and awareness of what our roles and responsibilities actually are in that non-business as usual scenario. So everyone feels confident and capable of actually seeing that process through. So it's very important to say, determine the objectives of the tests and the exercises that are needed to challenge the plans. Okay, some implementation challenges, but it's really important to highlight these because there are some very common pitfalls that we see very often, particularly around business impact assessments. So, you know, I've seen some very dubious BIAs in the past, and I've personally sort of learned a lot from what not to include within a BIA. But again, it's a really, really essential piece of the program because done well, you can actually identify a significant amount of information that can be utilized for other areas. So, we can identify where we're most at risk from a cybersecurity event, or we're most at risk from loss of a particular asset. It gives us greater insight into the dependencies and how one department internally relies on another one's output. What those dependencies look like, as well as external dependencies and obligations under contract, for example. So the common I guess pitfalls are not having a defined regular process for BIAs. So I've seen some organizations may have done it once, like 6 years ago, but the business has changed.
Yep.
Processes have changed, technology has changed, but they haven't updated. It's just been a tick and flick exercise, and they're not getting anything from it, quite clearly, but that's because the process itself is broken. And there's lack of understanding about what it actually is. Another common pitfall is that the scope hasn't been defined, so we haven't looked at why or where we need plans. So I've gone into organizations where every department has a plan, but it's pretty much cut and paste cookie cutter approach, and they got the same information in there. And some of them are like, well, I don't know why I need a plan because it's not telling me anything. I never look at it when we have an event. It's like, okay, well, why do you have a plan?
Yeah,
you're not going to look at
useful.
it, and it's not relevant to you. And that's a typical, I guess, issue of that tick box exercise. Yes, we have plans, but not actually looking at, what it actually gives. So I guess good business continuity plan is just, okay, well, in a scenario where we can't work as business as usual, if we have a workaround, this is the special case procedure that we need to put in place for it, rather than what I've seen previously. There you go. I think we covered change management in terms of, unless you have regular cadence of doing BIAs and validation and things like that, then as the organization changes, if you're not keeping that up to date, then your plans aren't going to be up to date, and the whole thing's broken anyway. So it's clearly then not embedded into the organization. So yeah, that's some key pitfalls that I've seen several times.
Yeah. No, I think I wouldn't say that's just limited to business continuity. I would say that's across all certifications in a way. If you're not, you can be 9001 certified as well, but if people aren't updating processes as processes are changing, and if things are all different, well, then again, you've just done a tick box compliance check, you haven't actually embedded it correctly. So I guess you have to get
the costs of going through that as well. The cost of going through that process and the pain of getting your certificate, and then it just goes by the wayside because someone's moved on, or there is no regular review cadence.
Yeah. And then you're paying an auditor to come in, pre-certification audit, and you're spending all this extra money where you could have just had a better buy-in, people understanding what they're doing, and you're all okay.
Exactly. Yeah. If only.
If only.
Okay, so the path to certification for 22301 is very similar to any other standard. So you have stage 1 and stage 2 audits, where you have an independent auditor come through to, first of all, in stage 1, ensure that you're set up appropriately, and they can recommend you for stage 2. And then stage 2 is very much where they go into asking evidence that it's actually embedded within your organization. So what does that mean for you? So can you demonstrate that if you're making changes to systems or processes, that it actually considers business impact analysis, or recovery plans and things like that for systems, or what have you? How can you demonstrate that end-to-end process is actually working?
Yeah.
So yeah, so within the course, again, we go through each of these stages. So we cover off how to do a gap assessment, understand your current capabilities and your target state. So building on, what are the objectives of your business continuity program and how do we get there? So we refine things like the measures and metrics, how you actually are demonstrating, continual improvement and getting intelligence around the system in its operating well, and that sort of thing. We also go through the implementation steps. So we have at the beginning of the course, it's refining the project plan to get you from when you are now to certification, but then also a project plan for, I guess, or maintenance schedule for continuing that post certification. So it's really understanding, once it's implemented, what additional activities are needed to really embed it and maintain certification over time.
Mm-hmm.
We go through each of the implementation steps. So following the standards requirements for plans and strategies and BIA and risk assessment, we go through each of those elements in turn. And yeah, we go through, like I said before, some different exercises to sort of get you a bit more hands-on with the training, but also, regular touch points where we're sort of talking together as a group and working through a problem. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Training capabilities. So like other standards like 27001, for example, do a similar evaluation looking at the capability and capacity really of the people involved that have specific roles and responsibilities within the plans and strategies. So you need to determine, who has what responsibilities, but also authority comes across loud and clear in business continuity, because you need someone to have the authority to approve when to invoke a business continuity plan or situation, for example, who can authorize communications and, when we and how we talk to the media, for example, during an event. So it then goes, okay, well, these are all the scenarios that we need to think of. What training do we expect those individuals to have, and can we create a training needs analysis, for example, to get us up to that point that people are fully supported in that role, and so they themselves feel confident that they can manage their responsibilities during a very stressful situation.
Yeah.
So I've got the lead implementer course on there. So essentially, I recommend anyone doing a lead implementer course, across cybersecurity or quality management or 22301, because working with training providers like us, we're also given our experience. So I've been working in the industry, not just teaching, for the last 20 odd years. So you can get little tidbits, and hopefully you're not just doing the lead implementer course itself and ticking a box for yourself. You can actually be inspired to add on to what you already have in terms of your working knowledge. So yeah, so it helps anyone, so the lead implementer course can be picked up at any stage in a career. So if you're very new to business continuity management, operational risk, or cybersecurity, for example, they're very good sort of lead-ins to explain why we do certain things within the standard and why the standard's asking particular artifacts to be in place. So, I think lead implementer course are quite invaluable in that regard.
Yeah, there's usually no prerequisites for these ones. So, you don't have to wait years and have years of experience under your belt to gain the knowledge to then start doing the work internally. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like I said, we'll give some tools and tidbits along the way, along the journey. And, I've got some, tools that I've used in the past. And yeah, if we can sort of share, that's how we all grow. In having a course that's one-on-one pretty much online, it's, a great opportunity for you to ask questions, or challenge thinking, or anything like that. So we can all learn from that process. So yeah, if you ask the why question enough, you're gonna hopefully um, get a better grounding and understanding of what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think also what's good to know about these public courses is you get to hear from people in different businesses, different organizations, different levels as well. You have people in small to medium businesses to large organizations as well. So you really get to see and hear different anecdotes and different scenarios that they're dealing with. And then as a little guy, you might think this is like the most important thing to you, but then you hear about someone else and you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't even thought about that. Woo, I maybe need to do something else, or vice versa. I think it's really cool to be able to have access to these, and trainers like yourself, Yvonne, with experience in the consulting space, helping people through their actual implementation and auditing. Getting knowledge and trained by people with such experience is super valuable. And I'll also point out for our listeners or viewers that if you also need post-course support with implementation, this is something that Yvonne can do also. Vital Learning Edge do this also. We can help with our consulting arms to actually go back with you if you needed further support post-course as well. So that's something special you get. Well, yeah, so next steps, I guess, start your journey. If you're interested, we do have the ISO 22301 lead implementer course. We have that running the 15th to the 19th of June 2026. If depending on what time you listen to this, you can save 15% using the code on the screen now. That's VLE webinar. Pretty unique, pretty simple. But we'd really appreciate it if you'd like to join, have a bit of a taste test of us and the course and enjoy it. It's a 5-day course. There is an exam at the end leading to a certificate. So, it's all good for professional development, making sure you can get in and know what you're doing out in the real world. So yeah, if you had any questions or wanted to know more about business continuity, the training course, or anything else that we've spoken about today, feel free to reach out to vitallearningedge.com. That's our website. And you can email us at train@vitallearningedge.com or give us a call. But otherwise, I want to say thank you, Yvonne, for joining us on this webinar today. It's been great having you and hearing about what business continuity is and the impact and the standard itself, the ISO 22301. Really informative. And then you've also had a bit of a taste test to our course and the value of it, getting some tools and templates and stuff. I think that's really valuable. So thank you so much, Yvonne.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.